Welcome to Dance Specific Talks. This podcast is made for us dancers, and our goal here is to inspire dancers from all over the world to become better, both on and off the dance floor. We want to provide you with a platform where we dancers can share and learn from each other. So let me introduce to you your host for this podcast, Teaser, and remember as always, by dancers, for dancers.
What's up, party people, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite dance podcast, Dance Specific Talks. Today we are traveling all the way to Michigan in the US as we are talking with the owner and founder of BALLET Books, no one else than Talia Bailes.
And she's doing this like we always do.
What position is that? You know that one?
I know.
So what do you need to know about Talia and Ballet and the Books? Well, Talia has been a long lifetime lover of dance, and she started with ballet herself. A few years ago, she started to see that there was a gap in between kids that were really good at reading and kids that were falling behind, and she decided to do something about it. Today she's running this non-profit organization. It's a nationwide organization dedicated to that is striving to reduce the literacy gap through the hybrids of storytelling, of dance and reading. We're going to get into it all in this interview, and I'm so excited to talk more about children's didactics and the dancing together with shrinking the gap of reading in the society. Now, if you want to follow this podcast, don't forget we exist on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and many other podcast platforms. And now, let's get it going. Welcome to this interview, Talia Bailes.
Hello. It's good to see you.
Good to see you all the way in Michigan in the US. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. I'm excited to be here, talk to you, meet cool dancers from all over the place.
Yeah, I was so happy when I saw your email, and I was like, oh, I always get so grateful when people reach out that has some exciting projects, and you definitely have some big things going on. You have your own company, BALLET Books, and we are going to get into that as well. But first of all, I always like the audience to get to know you a little bit. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
Ooh. Well, right now I'm learning about the cardiac system in medical school. And so that's pretty exciting. I got to dissect a heart the other week. And so that's been interesting, learning about the body in a different way beside dance. So I think that's what I'm excited about, the opportunity to learn about humans.
Wow. And you're not from Michigan, but where did you actually grow up, and why are you over there right now?
Why am I where I am? So I was born in Ohio, in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to school in upstate New York, had taken a year to live in Ecuador before going to school. And then I was living in Phoenix, Arizona for a job. And then I ended up in Michigan for medical school. And so I'm at the University of Michigan's medical school right now.
Oh, wow. That's quite of a journey. And as everyone on this podcast, you are a dancer. Tell me just a little bit about what made you fall in love with dance. What kind of styles have you been doing up till now?
Oh, I love dance. I love the people who dance. I love being connected to communities through dance. I grew up doing only ballet, very strict ballet. I grew up in like a very traditional Russian dance studio. And then I started learning more about contemporary before I graduated from high school. So when I was like 16 or something. And then I took a gap year before going to college in the US. I lived in Ecuador, as I mentioned, and I did dance more as I was working with a traditional indigenous dance group. And so we were doing indigenous dance, we were doing folklore, we were doing all types of Ecuadorian traditional dances. And then I went to university and I did more modern contemporary. And now I find myself, I teach kind of creative movement ballet, but I love doing everything. I love taking Afro dance classes. I've studied in Colombia and done salsa and tango, working with groups on understanding how dance impacts the health and well-being of kids, which is really what I'm interested in. And so I've kind of done a lot of different styles, not everything, but I've been exposed to a lot of different things. And I don't think I could say I love one more than the other, but I just love being connected to others through dance.
Right. I think it's so much fun because when people are asking like, yeah, so what kind of styles do you love? It's almost like asking a person that loves reading books, like there's just so many genres and there's different times of the year you feel like dancing in different ways and also different chapters in your life. And I always find it so interesting. But one thing we do really have in common is this connection of movements and children. As I mentioned to you in our email correspondent, I also worked at the university for this with teaching preschool teachers how to use dancing in their education, because as we know, not all kids learn by reading and not all kids are just learning by watching. Some needs to do physically with their body in order to understand whatever, mathematics, geographics, whatever it is. So I'm so excited to talk with someone who's also into this.
I know it's a small group.
It
is. It's totally a nerdy thing, but it's. I believe in it so much. I think it's the future of education and the future of teaching our children and helping people fall in love with learning. That's just as you're saying, not everybody learns the same way. Why don't we make the classroom adaptable for everybody?
Exactly. And just to kind of deep dive into the why you have started your own company, why you have published your first book, and why you have so many places throughout the nations now that are working with your concept. Let's talk about the number 35%. You wrote on your website that 35% of fourth graders are proficient in reading in the US. Tell me more about this number and what it represents.
So there are so many statistics, and there was just a recent article published, I think it was by the New York Times, but don't quote me on that, talking about how the pandemic has really impacted children's education and people being out of the classroom. And, some kids were online, some kids were in person, some kids didn't go in person or didn't really receive an education for 2 years. It depends on where you are in the world. In the US, there are some studies that have suggested that, and this was pre-pandemic, that some children raised in low-income families hear 300 million fewer words compared to their more affluent kids. Actually, as I'm saying this, let me confirm that that's the right number before and I can repeat that for you so you can delete it. It's not 300, it's 30. I'll re-say it. So some studies have suggested that low-income children hear 30 million fewer words compared to their more affluent peers by the time they enter kindergarten, which is a huge discrepancy. And so this number that you're mentioning, the 35%, it's just another statistic showing we're not doing something right. Something needs to change. Kids are falling behind, and these are kids who are already falling behind because of other reasons. There's other socio-determinants of health or other challenges that they're facing, racism, disabilities, etc., that are setting them up for failure. And we're not helping them succeed because we're creating this huge literacy gap that exists. Clearly, kids are not ready. They're not proficient in reading. And the pandemic has just exacerbated that. And so that's where Ballet and Books, that's not the only reason we started, but we are really rooted in trying to close that literacy gap through motivating and moving youth forward. So bringing together young people to help other young people so that this doesn't keep happening, because it's truly not acceptable. We're not doing something right.
And I also know that there was a time where you were trying to find books that was making this connection between movements and the literacy, but it was hard to find. Tell me a little bit about that frustration and what made you go like, we're gonna do it on our own.
Yeah. So we're so intentional about the books we pick out for our kids, because a lot of our kids are people of color or kids who aren't kind of accepted in typical dance classes. Maybe they have different abilities than other typical children. And so we were always looking for books that represented our kids, looked like our kids, had the abilities that our kids had. And we were also always looking for books that helped kids move, because why should you just be sitting when you're reading? Shouldn't you be communicating with the person reading with you and moving around? Like, let's encourage people to learn in a different way. And so we were always looking for these books, and it was so hard to find diverse dancers and books that were saying not just let's read about a dancer, let's dance with the book, let's dance with the dancer. And so it was 2020. It was the summer of 2020. And I said, you know what? We're just going to write our own. Let's just do it. And let's make it so our kids have people that look like them in the book. And so kids in our book are all different colors and have different ways of walking and communicating with the people that are around them. And I think that was our goal, so that all of our kids have somebody that they look up to and that they are excited about learning and dancing while they're reading the book.
Wow. I really, really love that. I feel like it's the future. We talk so much about diversity, but sometimes it gets very one-sided. And when it comes to dancing, yeah, I mean, the people like maybe us that have worked with kids with different functional variations know that a lot of kids can dance. But when we think about the dancer, we think about a certain body type and a certain body functionality. So I'm very happy to hear also that you're portraying dancers with a lot of beautiful differences as well.
Totally.
And you were also mentioning, like, our kids. How do you actually find the kids that you're going to work with?
Yeah, that's also a great question. So Ballet and Books is rooted in community and community engagement. All of our chapters partner with a local community partner. Typically, that's a library. That can also be a local school or a local community center. Just depends on what that community has. That's kind of the center for the community. And those individuals who work at that community partner help recruit the kids in most of our towns. And that's because they know the community. They know the families that can most benefit. And our college students who are actually putting on the programming, so it's an opportunity for these college students to engage directly with their local community, learn from and with the people that they're living alongside. Frequently, college students become really separated from the grounding part of community. And so we want them to be a part of where they're living. And so they're going directly to those places to actually provide the programming. And those locations are helping recruit the kids that are a part of the program.
And the college students, are they all dancers, or how are you finding them?
A lot of them are dancers. We tend to attract the dancers, of course. I think a lot of dancers have seen the impacts that being a part of a dance group can bring to them, both physically and mentally and emotionally. And so I think we have a lot of dancers that are like, yes, we believe in this, but we have a lot of non-dancers too. The way the program works is it's an hour and a half long program. The first 45 minutes are a typical dance class that's fun and brings together dance and literacy and movement, but it's way more dance focused. The second 45 minutes is a curriculum that's put on by a college student in a one-to-one mentorship pairing. So each college student has one child and they're working directly with that child. And that curriculum is based on how do we teach literacy through dance. And so it's bringing in movement, reading poems, dancing to the poems, clapping to syllables, stomping to syllables, things like that. Now I'm forgetting what your actual question was, but those college students don't have to be dancers. They can just be lovers of movement and lovers of teaching and lovers of literacy and making sure, as we kind of talked about earlier, the literacy gap does not continue to exist.
Wow. I think that some of the beautiful things with this is that you also mentioned that it's one college student per child. Why do you think that is so important to have that one-on-one meeting?
I have been so grateful and lucky to have incredible mentors in my life, and they have helped guide me to where I am and supported me, cheered me on when I needed them. And I think mentorship is crucial to young people's development. All of us, no matter our age, we all need mentors. We all need people we look up to and people who can help guide us, ask us the right questions. And I think something about our program that I think is really special is these mentors become lifelong older siblings to a lot of our children. We have kids who have graduated out of our program, after they're done, and our mentors have stayed in touch with them. Mentors who have graduated college and still talk to the kids that are part of their lives. I still get videos of kids that I used to work with years ago. I think that relationship is so crucial to children's development. And so we really invest in that by making sure every kid has somebody that they can relate to and that they can talk to and read with and get excited about learning with.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow, that's so beautiful, because your kids are they're usually between 3 and 9, if I'm not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why specifically this age?
Yeah. So we chose that age. The reason Ballet in Books started, I can kind of step back for just a minute. And I'll say the reason Ballet in Books started was because we really believe in bringing literacy and dance together, as we said, to close the literacy gap. I came up with the idea because I had just, as I mentioned previously, I did a gap year before going to university, and I lived in Ecuador, and the kids were phenomenal storytellers and beautiful dancers. They didn't love reading. Reading wasn't really a part of the culture. So then I returned to the US and I was doing research with a pediatrician, and we were looking at literacy and how kids learn to read and when kids fall off track when they're learning to read, because you want to catch a kid before they fall off track. You don't want them to be off track, as we said, in 4th grade, because you need reading in order to advance in school, and it's directly correlated to health outcomes when kids get older as well. And so we found through this process, as I was doing this research, then I was like, wow, why don't we bring dance and literacy together, and let's do it for younger kids, because we need to get these kids by 3rd grade so that they're not off track come 4th grade. And so early intervention matters. So we started with 6 to 9-year-olds, trying to hit that pre-3rd grade mark or into 3rd grade. And then we went younger because, as I said, early intervention matters, and early childhood development is crucial to later success in life. And so that's why we have that age range, because we want to help kids so that they're not behind later, and that they start on this great path full of connection and community and confidence building that dance brings, and this love of literacy and learning that we're combining with dance, so that they're ready to hit the ground running when they're older.
Wow. And now you have about 9 places around the country that has these programs together with college students and the community, locations. Now, like, what is the dream here? Is it to have one in each state, or what is actually the longer vision with it?
That's the dream. Every community everywhere, not just in the US. We have interest from places outside the US. If any of your listeners are outside the US and are interested, this is not just limited to where we are. That would be the dream, because every kid deserves access to dance and literacy and mentorship opportunities. And young people really can make a difference and can bring that opportunity to other young people in their community. And so I think that is the dream, that we hit kids everywhere. I don't know if it's really realistic to say every single child everywhere, but every community, every college, every local community college, things like that. Every child can access a free dance and literacy programming.
And how has it been then, like, to train the college students that are actually going to do this? Because it seems to be a curriculum that they can learn easily, but how do you make sure that it translates well to the kids?
Yeah, I think we've been incredibly lucky. We have phenomenal young people and student leaders that join our team. We are very intentional, the word I've used before, about how we teach and educate our young leaders so that they go out in the community in a respectful. So the training that we put on, we have once every semester. So it's twice a year training for all of the young people that are part of our program. And we have an identity and bias section that helps our mentors learn how do you work with people who are different from you, and how do you look at yourself and kind of reflect on who you are and what you're bringing to a situation. And then we have another session on dance engagement and another on literacy. And so it sounds so easy to just read with a child, right? But how do you actually read with a kid? How do you actually engage them? So we're talking about that. What are the strategies? We use something called dialogic reading with our young kids, that when you're reading a book, you're really asking them questions and prompting them. So it's an engaging experience. And then for dance, we're not teaching the traditional, maybe plie, tendu. I mean, we are, but how do you teach that in a way that everybody can be a part of it and everybody gets it and everybody's body feels incorporated and included in that? And so we have these phenomenal experts that come in and help us with that training. And then I have this amazing national team, and everybody at our level, everybody's working to make sure these programs run smoothly. And so some of my team meets every other week with the student leaders from all of these chapters to make sure they feel supported, and so that we can help them identify challenges that are facing them, because this is they're not just starting a little club, they're starting a nonprofit in their community. And so we're trying to teach them leadership and to help them kind of uncover the power within themselves and uncover their passions and their goals and dreams. And so this organization, there are mentors with the young children, but it's all about mentorship at every level of the organization.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And this just makes me think that, well, then there's no issues to spread it outside of the US, because
Exactly.
the curriculum
Yes.
is already there, the training,
Mhm.
whatever
Mhm.
you have invested in that training is already there. So like, yeah, if there's anyone
Mhm.
out there in any
Come to me.
country, yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
We will work with you no matter where you are.
No, it sounds fantastic. What an amazing idea. What an
Thank you.
amazing idea.
We
Yeah.
have a phenomenal team. A phenomenal team.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's like a million reasons why you keep going, but if you could mention, what is the main factor that just makes it all worth it? Because I'm assuming, like most nonprofits, it takes a lot of time. It's a lot
Yes.
of people to coordinate. It's just not something that you easily start up and let go of.
Mhm.
So what makes it worth it for you?
Yeah, there are definitely the days that are really hard and not fun. And as a student studying medicine right now, my time is very limited, and so you have to be really careful about what you commit your time to. And of course, a lot of my time is committed to this organization. And I used to answer this question. I have been asked before, like, why do you keep going? Similarly, I used to answer the kids that we work with, the young kids. And I used to tell a story about one little 4-year-old who came to us, was so afraid, would not dance with us during classes, would barely talk to us, would just cling to her parents. And over time, she slowly started opening up. Then we had our big show. So the kids get to perform on stage alongside the college students in front of all the college campus, which is an incredible opportunity for the young people. And this little girl, the parents were so nervous that she wasn't going to be able to perform, and they were like, oh, we'll take her, it's okay. And I was like, no, she'll be fine, I think she can do it. And she stepped on stage and she did the whole dance. She did not cry, she was jumping, smiling. And now she's like 7 and she dances all the time. She's in other dance programs outside of our organization, and dance has become her thing. They just put her in dance thinking, oh, maybe it will help her become confident. I mean, she's a little girl, and now this is what she loves. And that is why I keep going. But the day to day, when it's really hard, I look at our other young people, our young student leaders, and I'm like, that's the future. They're the ones who are going to make the most immediate change tomorrow and the next day. And the next day, they're putting so much time and energy into their community. If they're doing that and studying and trying to figure out life, I can do it too. And so I think it's twofold, right? It's both the mentors and the young children. I can't stop because I feel like we have this responsibility to make the world a better place for the young people that are coming up after us. And I think if the adults can't do it, then we better get started.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think that is, yeah, as you say, like the power of dance, to see just a child going from shy or introverted into blooming. It's just it's another joy. And it's also beautiful, as you say, to see also when maybe a dancer or a non-dancer grows into a leader.
Yeah.
because I don't know how early you started, but I mean, I was not more than 15 when I started to teach, and I didn't particularly like children, like when I started. And I was kind of hard, but after a while, I started to see the magic in, oh, okay,
Mhm.
there's just so much that is happening. And yeah, what kind of person do you become when you always have to look at yourself as a role model and as a leader,
Yeah.
and that you're
Mhm.
realizing that you have a gift? Like that is
Mhm.
the confidence of, even if you're young yourself, that you're like, oh, but I can actually give a weekly or bi-weekly meeting, and I am a
Mhm.
grown up in these child's eyes that is just different from parent or
Totally.
grandparent. So it's
Mhm.
definitely it's a birth of a confidence within a child, but it's also a birth of confidence of a leader, that I can do it. I can stand in front of a group. I
Mhm.
can handle situations that are coming up.
Yeah,
They will. Yeah. That's so
exactly.
beautiful. That's so, so beautiful.
Thank
Ah,
you. Thank you.
makes me so it makes me so happy that also things like this can have come up through COVID, because I've interviewed so many dancers throughout COVID where we talk a lot about the inner reflection, and it's very few people that have actually made something new or developed
Mhm.
something different in COVID times that is not just a version of what they already did. And this feels just like something that could have stopped you, but it didn't. It just turned
Mhm.
into a focus of a book, maybe more than the focus of the in real life programs. And
Mhm.
that's just a great example of how you
Mhm.
can turn a situation into just something new. What would you say have been the biggest learning moment for you throughout COVID?
Yeah, well, I was working for the government agency, actually working on COVID, the CDC, which I don't know if you can actually include, so you might have to cut that out. But I can just say I was working on COVID as an epidemiologist, and I was really looking at all the COVID numbers and seeing the deaths and seeing how sad it was, because I had just graduated university and I needed a job, and that was my job. I was a public health worker, and I also knew that our kids were going to be the ones most impacted by those school closures, and that we needed to do something then to stop kind of what was going to come. And I think the biggest learning experience for me, oh, it's so hard. There were so many, but it was how much I value connection and community and people. I mean, you talked about like coming up with new ideas, thinking of new things. And I think part of this book was a way to connect people. There was this weird, disconnection when everybody was in their homes and online, and now we see that communicating online is beautiful too, and you have way more opportunities to connect with people like you, like this. But at the same time, it was an incredibly lonely few years, not just during the lockdowns, but for a lot of years. And so I think Ballet and Books has brought young people, both 3 to 9 year olds and our college students, ways to connect that maybe they didn't see possible before. And so I think I will take out of COVID, even as it's still going on and where it's becoming endemic, I will for sure take the importance of making sure I have community and connection wherever I am.
Mm, wow. Yeah, I cannot do more than agree with you. It's really, it was very beautiful to be able to come back to dancing and just
Yes,
realizing that if you just look at it from like a typical dancer perspective, like, oh, we lost all of our bookings and we couldn't attend the dance schools and we
right.
couldn't teach our classes. And then we came back to dancing and we realized it was never about the bookings. That was never
Yeah.
where we started. It was
Mhm.
something that used to be our passion that had turned into a job.
Mhm.
And when we came back to it, just realizing that is that connection with people and being able to just meet and be close and be physical with one
Mhm.
another. That's what it's all about. And I think that that's how maybe helped, hopefully helped a lot of dancers to realize where the true passion lays. And yeah,
Helped people rediscover their passion for sure. For sure. Me included.
Yeah. So where do you see your own dance journey going now? From you, I mean, you're a student now, you have a lot of studies. How do you get in dancing in your life in order to still making it a part of your life?
Yeah. I mean, dance, all dancers, I'm sure, feel the same way. You need to have dance to feel full and feel like a full human being. So I find dance wherever I can. Last night, I taught other med students. There's like a dance group that I teach just a few other med students weekly, and that's fun. But I take classes when I can, when I'm not studying. And I see my future trajectory where I hope it ends. I hope that people can see the connection between health and dance. And I hope that my future role as a physician, I hope to be a pediatrician, and I hope to be able to kind of shine a light on the intersection between health and dance and how much dance can impact the health and well-being of young people and not young people. Everyone finds joy and benefits through dance. And so I hope I'm able to really bring those two together.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so much to discover there and uncover, because I heard somewhere that, yeah, you know, the dancing can help with Alzheimer's, and it can help with just so many other things. And I think that there's just so limited amount of studies done so far. And I really hope that people like you can also take it further and showcase how beautiful it is, not just only to do it, but even how it makes people feel when they're watching it, and how beneficial that can be just watching dance as well. So makes me hopeful. Makes me hopeful.
Me too. Me too. So many exciting things in so little time.
Right. And for a lot of dancers out there, to do something like what you have just pulled out, which is like to create a nonprofit organization, connect with community, giving out your own book, that can be feeling like a very far stretch to what you are able to do. What kind of advice would you give other dancers that are maybe sitting on ideas but don't really know how to get there and make it happen?
Oh, yeah, that's hard. I would say I look at other people and I think the same thing. Oh my goodness, I can't do that. That's so far away from what I would ever be able to do. I think we have to really reflect, really think about what would we do if we really weren't afraid of failing, or we weren't afraid of what comes next. I think it's awesome being young because maybe I'm naive and I don't know what could go wrong. And so I'm just like, we're just going to do it. We're just going to go for it. But I think my best advice would be find somebody who you can work with, because my team has been the most phenomenal team, and we motivate each other, we push each other. And so everything gets done because somebody else is saying, did you do that yet? Or, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about that too. Let's do it together. And so I would say, if you're sitting on something and you're like, I want to do this, but how do I make it happen? Find somebody who can help you make it happen. You guys can push each other too.
And I mean, I am assuming that you didn't grow up as a book publisher,
No.
but you have now been one of the people creating this book. What is something else that you haven't done that you're maybe thinking about doing for this company or for yourself?
I mean, we have so many ideas. I definitely did not grow up as a book publisher. I definitely never thought I would write or publish a book. That was not, I did like reading, but it was never a goal of mine. Something as a nonprofit that we're looking into is, we have all this curriculum. We want to make it available to everybody. So we're looking at how do we get it to dance companies too? How do dance students that are already in dance companies, how can we get them access to it? So that's one of our goals there. We'd love to kind of figure out ways to partner with people across the world. How do we expand in that way? Something else, I mean, personally, that I want to do, I want to work with people in other countries, to study how dance impacts health of kids. And so I think that's something I haven't finished yet, that I'm still working on, that I feel like I've just dipped my toes in, and that I think I want to follow more.
Yeah, and translating the book as well.
Oh,
There's
we are
gonna,
thinking of turning it into Spanish. Actually, that is
yeah.
the next goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine you have a lot of Spanish speaking people in your country, and there's
Hmm.
just so many millions around the world that are
Totally.
that are speaking it. So yeah, start with Spanish and then the rest will just follow.
Exactly.
So
And as a
yeah.
fun fact, my last name means you dance in Spanish.
Oh, really? Wow.
Bailes, although we pronounce it
Bailes.
Bales in English, but
Yeah.
bailes in Spanish means you
Wow.
dance. Hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, you were meant to do this for
I
sure.
know.
I was like, what does my last name stand for? But it doesn't really have a meaning. It does not really have anything to it. It's been lovely to kind of deep dive into this with you. In the end of my interviews, I always have something called fill in the gaps, where I start a sentence and you can end with a word. So it's
Just one word.
cross.
I'm only allowed to
Just
choose
one
just
word,
one.
or
Okay.
maybe an end of a sentence.
Okay.
But
Okay.
short, quick, whatever comes to mind first. Yes?
Okay. Hmm.
All right. When I teach, I always try to give my students
A new way of thinking.
good one, good one, good one. If I could change anything in the school system, it would be
Oof, that's a hard one. If I could change anything in the school system. The rigid way of thinking.
if I could have every kid try this at least once, it would be
Dance, for sure.
for sure. Easy one, easy
Duh.
one. And the best advice I ever got was
All of the things you love and the rest of it will work out.
boom. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so, so much, Talia. I would love to end with having you taking over the mic. Where can people find you if they want to know more about your company, your book, maybe even follow you on social media? Where can people find you? Do you want to shout somebody out? The mic is yours.
I'll shout out Ballet and Books, the best way to end. So you can find us at balletandbooks.org. You can follow us on Instagram at Ballet Books or on Facebook at Ballet and Books. And feel free to reach out, email me with questions or anything. I love talking to any and all individuals, wherever you are.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, please do. If there's anyone out there in the audience that was feeling, you know what, we need this in my country or in my community, reach out to Talia and let's make it happen. Because
Thank
she
you.
definitely taught us how to make this happen. So
well, thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here.
thank you so, so much. Don't forget to click subscribe, comment below, and give us a rating or review. We have a Facebook page, YouTube page, and we are on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and all the other podcast platforms. We also have an Instagram, so don't forget to tag us in your favorite episode and share it with the world, because we read all of it.